Jeopardy! Super champion Scott Riccardi's epic 16-day streak has come to an end, but he's looking forward to returning to the Alex Trebek stage to compete again. Scott's extraordinary run ended during the July 25 Jeopardy! Season 41 finale, when he came in second to Jonathan Hugendubler. During Scott's incredible Jeopardy! Run, he entered the leaderboard of legends in 2 categories. Scott placed 8th in all-time highest winnings, regular season play, with $455,000, and tied for 10th place with Ryan Long in most consecutive games won with 16. When he won his 5th game, Scott secured his spot in the Jeopardy! Tournament of Champions. Jeopardy! Super champion Scott Riccardi's epic 16-day streak has come to an end, but he's looking forward to returning to the Alex Trebek stage to compete again. In an interview with Sarah Foss on Jeopardy! Winner's Circle, shared via YouTube, Scott revealed how he'll get ready for his return to the game for the Tournament of Champions, and whether he'll enjoy his time after his run or keep the pressure on himself to continue to prepare. Scott shared, "So I feel like this past month or so, I really kind of turned up the jets in terms of just really doing a lot of reading, and just trying to get things straight. So I'm gonna always just keep trying to learn new things every day over the whole break, but way more leisurely." Sarah then told Scott that it was inspirational to hear that he has all of his knowledge because he has a genuine curiosity about life, and, when he has a question about something, he learns more about it. Sarah added that it seemed that just who he is in his daily life is the best preparation for the Tournament of Champions. Scott agreed and said, "I think it's just a good sort of standing operating procedure to have day-to-day." What Scott Riccardi's preparation for the Tournament of Champions means for Jeopardy! Scott will be a formidable competitor. Of the 6 Jeopardy! Contestants who qualified for the next Tournament of Champions by winning 5 games or more, Scott is the most accomplished. He won 16 games, while Laura Father won 8, Andrew Hayes, Liam Starnes, and Josh Weichert won 6, and Ben Ganger won 5. With $455,000, Scott also has a considerable lead over his competitors in total winnings, including Andrew, $137,804, Liam, $123,584, Ben, $105,915, Josh, $100,202, and Laura, $92,599. Scott's willingness to make gutsy wagers led to him winning $50,400 in 2 separate games. Scott's natural curiosity, wealth of knowledge, and fearlessness make him the perfect Jeopardy! Contestant. This means that he'll be tough to beat in the Tournament of Champions. Scott will most likely win, or at least place 2nd or 3rd, which would mean that he'd qualify for Jeopardy! Masters Season 4. Our take on Scott Riccardi preparing for the Tournament of Champions. Scott has the right idea about how to prepare. Scott's plan to leisurely prepare for the Jeopardy! Tournament of Champions is the best idea. Cramming knowledge isn't the best way to retain it, and Scott's success is proof that learning about topics in a more natural way is much more productive. I believe that Scott's life philosophy about learning every day is why he's been such a fantastic Jeopardy! Contestant. It's going to be so thrilling to see him compete against the other Tournament of Champions contestants because they also have a love of learning that has gotten them far. I'm rooting for Scott to win the Jeopardy! Tournament of Champions, and also for him to continue to achieve impressive milestones as a new legend of the game. For the past several weeks, one name has echoed across the homes of trivia fans nationwide: Scott Riccardi. The Jeopardy! Super champion stunned audiences with an electric run filled with buzzer dominance, encyclopedic recall, and an unmistakable flair that made him a fan favorite. But on last night's episode, that dazzling streak came to a dramatic end, leaving many shocked, a few teary-eyed, and Scott himself already looking ahead. The defeat came not with a whimper, but with the high drama of a final Jeopardy! Category that could only be described as Scott's Achilles heel, early American poets. Heading into the final round, Scott held a razor-thin lead over his challenger, a high school English teacher from Portland named Dana Morris. Both players had played nearly flawlessly, bouncing back and forth across the board, often interrupting each other's momentum. The studio was tense. Even host Ken Jennings, himself no stranger to epic Jeopardy! Runs, could be seen raising an eyebrow more than once. The final Jeopardy! Clue. This poet, largely unknown in their lifetime, wrote nearly 1,800 poems, many of which were discovered posthumously in a locked chest. Dana, calm and poised, scribbled confidently. Scott, uncharacteristically fidgety, closed his eyes for a long beat before writing something down with hesitant resolve. Dana's response, Who is Emily Dickinson? Correct. Wager, $4,001. Scott's response, who is Anne Bradstreet? Incorrect. Wager, $5,200. Gasps rippled through the studio. With that, Scott's 17-game winning streak was over. A bittersweet goodbye. As the credits rolled, Scott smiled graciously and offered Dana a heartfelt handshake. It had to end sometime, he said, though his eyes betrayed just a flicker of disappointment. Backstage, Scott met with press and fans who had waited hours to congratulate him. "Honestly, I'm proud of what I accomplished," he said, holding a Jeopardy mug like a trophy. 17 wins, over $500,000, and a lifetime of memories. But don't worry, I'll be back. That's right. Just minutes after his loss aired, Scott confirmed he'd already been invited to the next Tournament of Champions. And he wasn't just excited, he was determined. "This isn't goodbye. I've always viewed trivia like a muscle," Scott explained. "And now that it's warmed up, I'm not about to let it go soft." According to close friends, Scott has already restructured his days to include 2 hours of practice per evening. His training regimen? A mix of flashcards, online trivia platforms, and simulated buzzer practice using an app his tech-savvy niece built just for him. "He's relentless," said Marikwan, a fellow trivia buff and Scott's Tuesday night trivia partner. "He came to pub trivia the day after his loss and scored a perfect round on classical music like it was nothing. You'd never guess he had just been dethroned." Scott also revealed he's working with a Jeopardy prep coach, yes, that's a thing, who's helping him analyze missed questions from his past games and drill down into his weaker categories. "I'll never get tripped up on poets again," he said with a half-smile. "I've read Dickinson's entire collected works this week alone. From under the radar to national hero." What makes Scott's journey especially captivating is how unexpected it all was. A quiet museum archivist from Syracuse, Scott entered his first Jeopardy game as the classic underdog, bespectacled, a little shy, and more than a little stunned to be standing on the same stage where legends like Hamish Schneider and Matamodio once stood. But he quickly silenced skeptics with buzzer speed that bordered on superhuman and breadth of knowledge that covered everything from Byzantine history to obscure Muppet trivia. "I had no idea that someone like me could make such an impact," Scott admitted. "I always thought the big champions were Ivy League professors or rocket scientists. Turns out, museum nerds know a thing or two too." As his streak grew, so did his fan base. Social media lit up nightly with memes of Scott's iconic eyebrow raise when he nailed a daily double, and hashtags like #Riccardi rules and #Jeopardy Scott trended after each episode. One fan even crocheted a Scott Riccardi doll and mailed it to him. "I keep it on my desk at work now," he chuckled. "It reminds me how many people were rooting for me." Eyeing the future. Scott's comeback plans aren't limited to just the Tournament of Champions. He's currently in talks with several podcasts and educational YouTube channels to collaborate on trivia-based content. One rumored project? A limited series podcast titled Buzz In, The Life of a Jeopardy! Super Champion, where Scott will break down the strategy, preparation, and pressure that go into a winning streak. "I think people are hungry for a peek behind the curtain," he said. "Jeopardy! Looks polished and clean on screen, but there's a lot of mental chaos going on up there. I'd love to show that." He's also expressed interest in returning to live trivia, possibly even joining the National Trivia Championships next year. "Trivia is more than a game," he mused. "It's a community, a passion, a puzzle that never ends. The best is yet to come." Despite his loss, Scott remains one of the most beloved figures in Jeopardy history. His humility, quick wit, and love for the game have solidified his place in the pantheon of greats. Fans aren't mourning his loss, they're counting the days until his return. As one Twitter user put it, "Scott Riccardi didn't lose. He just took an intermission. Can't wait for Act 2. So what's next for the museum archivist turned game show icon? More studying, more reading, and hopefully, more winning," Scott smiled. "I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot." And with that, Jeopardy's quiet champion walked off into the trivia night, not with a final answer, but with one thrilling question still hanging in the air. How far can Scott Riccardi go when he returns? If his past is any indication, the answer might just be, all the way.